14,605,000. Geez, that number is huge. Did we ever stop to consider how many different scenarios that actually is? The realm of possibility for that many outcomes is unimaginable. However, that has not kept theorists from wondering. It is understandable, though. For those not familiar with that astronomical number, Dr. Strange went over the number of futures possible to see if there was any possible way to defeat Thanos.
How many did we win?
One.
He found only one way.
How many did you see?
14,605,000.
Did Strange literally count them all? Or did he stop when he found a viable outcome? But the biggest question of all is, how did Strange ensure the one outcome that leads to victory happens? Behind the Screen has you covered with this major league theory that devolves a potential plot point for Endgame tied to this exact question. Near the end of Infinity War, the only thing audiences saw was the prep for a fight with Thanos. The battle failed, but it's more than possible that it was always going to fail. Our wizard friend even remarks to Tony and Nebula that it was the only way as he hands over the Time Stone to Thanos. So if they were always going to lose the Time Stone, where was the effort to come to that one winning outcome?
Why would you do that?
The time to work towards that winning scenario is built into the story. If Team Titan, see what we did there, was able to make a battle plan to remove the glove, then surely they had a failsafe. Strange seems to know that it was doomed from the start, but the viewer never sees what else he does. It's all a mystery with tons of clues though, and we think we might have solved it. Before jumping into that idea, let's back up. There is a lot of weight being thrown into the time vortexes mentioned in Ant-Man. It seems like every casual MCU fan is mentioning their potential involvement, and many people are taking it as a concrete fact. For those unfamiliar, the SparkNotes version is this. Scott Lang escapes the quantum realm through time vortexes that send him to the past. Somehow, these time vortexes become the key to defeating Thanos. Lots of theories stem off the time vortex branch. Luckily, this is not one of them. Well, it may come into play a little later in the theory. So if you've clicked on this video expecting another quantum realm theory, we've got bad news. This ain't it, Chief. However, this idea will involve it later. It actually centers around a completely different detail that fans seem to have forgotten about entirely. Remember when the concept of reality bending first appeared in Doctor Strange? The Time Stone gave our hero the ability to create a time loop in that film. He can selectively place people in a time loop and trap them in a never-ending cycle. Think Groundhog Day, but super mystical. The whole plot point seemed to be a one-off. After all, the risk of putting people in a time loop is not something Strange wants to do every day. Messing with time can lead to extremely adverse effects, and many fans assume that the writers would never bring this time loop power back into the fold. It's time to think differently. We see time through the Infinity Gem as a malleable weapon to be pulled and stretched for the benefit of the wielder. Why would Strange not use his greatest weapon against Thanos in that fight? Well, maybe he already did. Strange put Tony in a time loop. Boom! There it is! Suddenly, the entire plan comes together more clearly. Tony and Nebula were stuck on Titan without a sufficient way to get home. Strange is giving them the chance to ensure the winning scenario.
There was no other way.
Whoever survived the fight with Thanos needs to plan and discover the weakness that builds to the desired outcome. The entire battle plan was done to ensure the best planner on the team was left in the time loop. That need for Tony to plan a way toward the victory is why Strange sacrifices the stone to keep him alive. Otherwise, the strategy would be revealed and Thanos would stop it. Think back to that huge number of losing scenarios. Tony might be given the chance to live through every single one as a way to revise his plan. He is the smartest man on Earth, after all. The ultimate planner is being used as a weapon to push towards that 1 in 14 million chance of changing everything. Now, things get a little hazy at this point, so let's clear some things up. Some are wondering, can Strange put Tony in a time loop at all? Well, yes, but we see no evidence that suggests Doctor Strange needs to be a part of the time loop for the power to work. He can easily place Tony in a loop. The other discrepancy is when the loop starts. If it is like a Bill Murray Groundhog Day scenario, then Tony needs a starting point to loop back to. This is where speculation enters into the theory. We can't say for certain where the loop starts. We can say it would end like we all expect it to. Luckily, there are hints in the trailers and film set photos that may explain this snag and one other point of contention. Keep in mind, no one knows what Strange saw in those outcomes or when exactly he can place a time loop on a person. All audiences know is that Strange saw over 14 million failures, but failing at what? Well, the potential endings seem limitless. That isn't true though, they are limited at the numbers Strange mentioned, but you know what we mean. It's more than possible that the wizard with a keen understanding of time travel went to the future and placed Tony in a loop right after Thanos performed the snapping. The scenarios of failure would then be focused on Tony and Nebula getting back to Earth. It's more than possible. Using the Time Stone as a plot device offers up a lot of theories around this one part of a larger theory, so maybe this isn't the best explanation. However, another likely scenario is Stark is living in an isolated loop where he is the only one aware of the loop during the battle with Thanos. He is constantly reliving both the battle and the attempted flight back to Earth as a way of figuring out what needs to be done. This idea means that there are outcomes where Thanos destroys Iron Man before Strange gives him the Time Stone. We only saw this one scenario. That is mind-blowing. See, with the amount of futures offered to the audience, the possibility for a number of scenarios is endless. However, they all seem to lean on one thing. Stark needs to find a way back to Earth to stop Thanos. He knows it, and that is what he is planning now. So on to that other problem in the theory. Once in the time loop, how does one get out? Well, bring in the time vortexes. Ant-Man will likely be able to work through time too. So if the heroes and the other Snap people are actually trapped in the Soul Dimension, then Doctor Strange might be able to guide Lang to find Tony in the loop. That's a huge if, but hey, no theory is perfect. It's still entirely plausible and offers a way for Tony to devise that ultimate plan. Plus, set photos show Ant-Man back with the original Avengers, so he clearly gets out at least. We know what you're thinking. Okay, this theory sounds nice and all, but there is no proof that was mentioned. Well, we clearly see Nebula and Stark working on something in the Super Bowl teaser, so the two are working together to find a way back to Earth. That much is clear. Consider this part too, though. In the first trailer, Stark says, "And when I drift off, I'll think of you. It's always you." Perhaps that quote implies this isn't the first time he is experiencing starvation and breathlessness in space. Consider Tony's tone throughout the message too. He seems accepting of this end. It appears he is almost admonished with the results, like it's been happening to him a million times over. Iron Man is always a bit sarcastic and controlling, but this seems like something new. The latest development in Stark's arc is the growth toward letting go. He wants to keep control over tons of aspects in his life. In a way, this trait ties him closely to Thanos. The two of them try to construct the world to attune to their vision. The goal is slightly different. Strange might have seen this connection during his run through all of the scenarios. It could explain why Iron Man specifically needs to be the character going through this ordeal. The chance to lose control 14 million times and then some offers Tony a reality he needs to face. To defeat Thanos, he needs to accept the fact he cannot control everything in his life. This part of the theory is what makes it so exciting. We are getting the chance to close Iron Man's story on a beautiful last note that sees his journey come full circle. We need to accept that the end of this Avengers film may not be what fans expect. If Stark finds a way to get the winning outcome, it may come at some cost. Perhaps he keeps failing because he refuses to give up control. Maybe the only way to defeat Thanos is to accept that the result will not be perfect. Stark needs to learn to truly be willing to let go of people and ideas. He hasn't done that to this point, and it makes sense that the end of this phase offers that opportunity. It's the strongest supporting aspect of this theory we can find. Iron Man going through time 14,605 times offers a theory like no other. It offers the chance for a story centered around Stark with his journey at the forefront of everything. That's amazing. Well, that is the theory, but nothing is settled. After all, the number of failures may not actually be that high. We went over the most obvious variables that catch the theory in a conundrum, but there are some questions left to be answered. What is that winning outcome? Does Stark need to live for it to come true? Where does Captain Marvel fit into all this? How much of a role does Nebula play in Stark getting back to Earth? Even if they make it back, what then? We've given you the canvas, but it's your job to paint a picture of how this theory will play out. Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all the new theories and breakdowns from behind the screen.